Hello, and welcome back to your South King County Real Estate Update. My name is Sarah Eggleston with Stone Egg Realty at John L. Scott, and I'm back to deliver your real estate news for the week. I'll go ahead and jump right into it because, as usual, we have a lot to get to today. I was out of town last weekend, so we had 2 weeks of material to choose from. Today is August 26th, 2022, and let's find out what happened this week. So this week we did have our home buyers class, new strategies and tactics for home buyers in a changing market. I know it's kind of a mouthful. I really wanted to get across that this class is very different than the class I taught last year. So the class on Monday was great. I am super excited about the content. It really came together super well. Things are a little bit more challenging for some home buyers in today's market, but there's a lot of really great opportunity, and a lot of these opportunities were not available a while back. So we're seeing homes accepted with contingent offers. So like you have to sell your old home in order to buy your next one. Inspection contingencies, financing contingencies, and guess what? Overall sales price in our area has come down off of its yearly highs. So I'll dig into this as we go through today's material, of course, but overall, there is a lot of opportunity for buyers, especially if you look at some really creative solutions to achieve what you want to achieve. So this class was all about those creative solutions. It's just a quick half-hour class. And if you would like a copy of the class, reach out and let me know how I can get it to you. And I'd be happy to send it over. I did record it, so the replay is available. I'll send over the slides, and you can still get this great information even if you missed the actual live date. So make sure to reach out and request your copy of those materials. This came out on the 14th, so almost 2 weeks ago. But skyrocketing Seattle area rents leave tenants with no easy choices. This I just wanted to point out because if you are considering possibly purchasing a home or continuing to rent, trying to weigh those options, we are seeing rents continue to go up pretty consistently. In fact, for Seattle, the 1-bedroom median rent is up 9% from just 1 year ago. And that's one of the benefits with a mortgage is if you have a mortgage payment rather than a rent payment, not only are you building your own equity instead of your landlord's, but you also have this fixed amount that you're locked in at. So it won't raise up 9% over the course of a year. But a lot of people are feeling the squeeze with these raising rents. Common guidance, I've heard this several times throughout my life, is that you should spend no more than 30% of your income on housing. I challenge the vast majority of people in this region to hold true to that. If they're renting, there's a really great possibility that they're paying well over 30% of their income on rent. The math on this in our particular area just doesn't work out for the average income and the average rent. In fact, for King and Snohomish counties, minimum wage workers would have to work 90 hours a week to afford rent. I love this graphic, but it was too tall to put on the slides. So bringing you over to the webpage here, average rent for 1-bedroom apartment in the Seattle metropolitan area. You can see that the further away you get from Seattle, the greater the increases are. Federal Way is actually leading the charge on rent increases for 106% 10-year change. So it's more than doubled in the last 10 years. Whereas Kent is 88% over the last 10 years. And the closer you get to Seattle, the blue has not risen as much as the red. In the south end here, we have a lot of different areas that are all seeing great increases in rent year over year. So I just thought this was pretty interesting to look at. So wanted to pop over here for just a second. during the pandemic, we had these eviction moratoriums. They prevented landlords from kicking their tenants out of units, even if they were behind on rent. And it was very difficult to evict a tenant during the pandemic. Very few reasons you actually could. So in July, there were 233 evictions filed in King County. But if you compare that to pre-pandemic levels, 373 on average were filed each month in 2019. So we are still well below where we were pre-pandemic on evictions, which is a good thing. Housing providers blame rent increases on a shortage of units and a surplus of renters. So, supply and demand, I get it. The CBRE group forecasted a 14.1% annual increase on construction costs. So this is report construction costs may escalate 14.1% this year, but relief may come soon. So it is projected over the course of 2022, construction costs go up 14%. But if we compare this to what we would normally see, the average in a typical year would be about 2.5 to 3% increase. So this is a pretty big increase. The lead times for various materials, you can get paint pretty quickly, but the more specialized the product gets, the longer time it takes to come in. And roofing insulation is the lead time is 40 days from ordering. So this affects a lot of real estate, obviously. If people are like investors, if they're trying to flip something, their hold time is going to be a lot longer, greatly increasing the cost of the project, in addition to the materials to do the project increasing over what they used to be. I heard windows are taking a very long time to come in. Windows are taking a while, roofing insulation, it's taking a while, HVAC equipment. There's things that are just taking a really long time on construction and the turnover of buildings. So builders, flippers, people doing home renovations, they're all suffering from this. They said that pricing has recently become less volatile and is coming off of yearly and all-time highs, which I thought was interesting that they use that terminology, because they use that in another real estate article this week, yearly and all-time highs. They're expecting cost escalations of 4.3 and 2.9 in 2023 and 2024. So they're definitely expecting the price increases to drop off significantly starting next year. There's a lot of construction that has been put on hold. There's a slowdown in residential construction overall. One key factor still to be figured out is whether a slowdown in construction is coming, and if so, the extent of it. So we know it's happened at least a little bit, but we really need builders to keep building because of the housing shortage. But they're all about the return on investment, and those numbers might not work out right now. So we do kind of expect residential construction to take a little bit of a step back from what it's been the last couple of years. The single family starts specifically decreased 10.1% and are down 2.1% on a year-to-date basis. So this came out in Mortgage News Daily a couple days ago. Last week, the quote was housing recession. This week, we're at or close to the bottom. So what is it? Are we headed in a recession, heading towards a recession? Are we about to come out of a recession? There's been a lot of seemingly conflicting headlines. How can these two comments coexist in such close proximity? At first glance, it might seem incongruent, but here's the reality. The housing market is absolutely in a recession, in the sense that sales have been receding and declining in a meaningful way for more than 6 months. Pending sales peaked last October and existing sales peaked in January. If we want to use bear market metrics of 20% contractions, both easily meet the requirements. So we are in a real estate recession, but that just means the amount of sales has declined. The at or close to bottom, this is the comment that really needs to be analyzed a little bit more closely. Really, when we're looking at graphs, we don't know we're at the bottom until it's behind us. So this is the graph right now for pending home sales. And you can see there was a big drop down in the 2006-07 for the meltdown. and then a couple bumps up for some tax credits. When rates rose in the past, you can see a couple of big drops from rising rates in the past in 2014 and 2018. And then the lockdowns, we had pretty much everything shut down for a hot second and then jump way back up to crazy high intensity. And we are now back down below our average pending home sale rate, the 100% here. And who knows if we're at the bottom. I think it's likely we're close to the bottom, but that's one of those things that this article didn't really top in on. But the bottom line, the faster and bigger the decline in anything, the closer it is to the bottom. It remains to be seen how close we truly are. We could indeed be close, but we also need to be cognizant of the fact that July was a much more hopeful month in the mortgage market than August is turning out to be. And July 2022 pending home sales falls to the lowest pace since April 2020. And this came from the National Association of Realtors, and we are down about 1% in pending sales from last month, but down almost 20% from a year ago. And this is mostly due to the interest rates going up. All 4 regions, so the entire nation, declined. Pending home sales, you can see that the pending home sales index, we're at 89.8 now, which is the lowest it's been since April 2020. And this breaks it out by region. And from 2021 to 2022, we actually did have the biggest drop in sales out of any of the regions across our nation. For pending home sales index on a longer term scale, this is month by month instead of year over year. And us in the West here, we were the only region of the 4 regions to actually increase on our home sales from June to July. And that brings us to our market stat minute. We had 710 new listings, 849 pending, and 671 sold. So we did tick down in new listings, but we're remaining pretty constant in our pending sales overall. And for our local breakdowns, Renton and Kent actually had more new listings than pendings, although Renton, that margin is much slimmer. Auburn and Federal Way had more pendings than new listings. And in Federal Way, that's a greater disparity between those numbers there. So you can see how much it varies region to region. I just wanted to point out, I don't usually talk about the list price reduced, but in Kent, the list price reduced 43 outweighs the number of new listings. So the number of people that were sitting on the market and said, my house is priced too high, I need to decrease the price, was more than the people that listed in the last 7 days. So that's definitely a shift from earlier this year. But look at Renton. There's 27 that reduced price and 53 new listings. So in Renton, price reductions are far less common than they are in Kent right now. So I just thought that was really interesting. And if we look at Federal Way, 28 price reductions compared to 26 new listings. So here we go. We have more price reductions than new listings. Again, it's interesting. So this is Kent, Renton, Federal Way, and Burien. For the top is homes for sale and the bottom is pending sales. In Renton, we did actually tick up in pending sales this past month, but everywhere else did decrease in pending sales. Everywhere increased in the number of homes for sale. So there are a lot more homes to pick from on the market right now. And the median sales price, this was interesting because it also peaked in different areas at different times. It peaked in Renton before it peaked in Burien, and all of the areas are now coming down in their median sales price right now. And this is something we'd expect to see seasonally, but because our price increase in the spring was seasonably large, I'm not overly surprised to see a seasonably large decrease in prices heading into our fall and winter season. And last week we had a weekly average mortgage rate of 5.13. And this week our weekly average is 5.55. So a pretty significant increase, 0.4% increase in a single week is pretty significant. Inflation is at the top of the mind of the Fed, and they did just have their meeting in Jackson Hole, Wyoming this morning to discuss global economic challenges. And I'll get to that in just a minute. But here's the rates, mortgage rates since the beginning of the year. So this is why people have dropped out of the buying market. Like I said, reach out, get a copy of my class to find ways around that, because there are creative solutions. And who knows, we could still get you into a 4% interest rate, at least temporarily. So reach out for those materials. But we have seen a pretty significant price increase on mortgage increase since the beginning of the year. If we bring it to today's interest rate, we are at 5.73, which is actually down slightly from yesterday. So this week we did pop up pretty intensely and then have come down ever so slightly today. But as far as that meeting is concerned, Powell says Fed is resolved to fight inflation, even if it brings economic pain. So this has been one of the hot topics. This is from NPR earlier today, but they said they will keep raising interest rates to keep inflation under control, keep working to keep that inflation number down or get it further down. Powell acknowledged that there will be potentially some pain for some families and businesses. There may be an increase in unemployment, which is one of the things that we would like to avoid, of course. But the alternative could be even worse. Allowing high inflation to continue unchecked would be worse. Without price stability, the economy does not work for anyone. Powell said, we are taking forceful and rapid steps to moderate demand so that it comes into better alignment with supply and to keep inflation expectations anchored. We will keep at it until we are confident the job is done. So this is just saying, expect more rate hikes throughout the year for the Fed key rate. There are some signs that inflation is easing a little bit. It actually fell 0.1% between June and July, mainly due to gas prices decreasing. And if we take food and energy costs out of it, so-called core inflation was 4.6% for 12 months ending in July, the smallest increase in 9 months. So there are signs that lower inflation is here, then it's lowering, but single month improvement is not going to really push the Fed to change the trajectory on raising the Fed interest rate. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to have a conversation with you about real estate in your area or the area you are interested in buying in. If you have any questions about what I mentioned today, I would love to just, chit chat. Thank you so much for joining me for your South King County real estate update. I will be back here next week at 3 p.m. with your local real estate news. Till then, Sarah Eggleston with Stone Egg Realty at John L. Scott signing off. Have a great week, everyone.